Welcome. January 30th. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Working Man Committee Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon T., where we talk about everything that's important to the working man. And working man, we got some stuff to talk about today. A list of things is Hunter Biden's email to his partners at Burisma. He knew too much. And he's not an expert on the subject matter. We'll get into that. Half Moon Bay, California shooting. Another shooting, California. What's going on out there? Over some money? We gonna get in that mass shooting. Georgia. National Championship, Georgia. The QB out there ran into some trouble. DOJ is working to get answers for the Senate about all these classified documents that's floating around here that keep getting found everywhere else. And there's a lesson in all these tech layoffs. And we'll go over that. And our top story today, Biden and McCarthy going to start talks about the debt limit on Wednesday. Yep, so you know that they hit the debt limit. And so now they got to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. So Speaker of the House, Mike McCarthy, says on Sunday that he's looking forward to discussing the details and responsibilities with President Joe Biden. Sleepy Joe? Not just playing. About the debt ceiling. And so the two are going to meet this Wednesday and sit down at the White House and talk about their options and so forth. Yep, so Mike McCarthy says he wants to address some spending cuts along with raising the debt limit. That's fair, right? If you need to keep some pad, you don't want to go, max your credit card out. And so he wants to talk about that, spending cuts and the debt limit. And the White House doesn't want to talk about any spending cuts. They just want, just increase the limit so we can keep rolling. Yeah. So you got one side says let's be somewhat responsible and let's make a cut. If I'm gonna go up $100, we need to cut $50, and so keep that pad in what's new. But the White House says, hey, give me $100 and we'll talk about it next year, and then we need another $100. Yeah, but the Speaker of the House pledged. Now, what's going to happen? Before we get it, what's going to happen right here in this debt ceiling talk? And like I said, the side that wants just to clean, just give me more money and keep going, you're gonna start hearing talks about Social Security and Medicaid and those cuts and so forth. And the seniors, gonna scare the seniors to death like they always do. But what's going to happen here? But like I said, the Speaker of the House pledged. His pledge was to not cut anything out of Social Security or anything out of Medicare. It's off the table. So he's not cutting anything out of those two programs that are the hot button programs that so they use to beat people over the head that don't changes made. Like I said, the government spends a lot of money in a lot of other things other than these two programs that can be cut. And then, like I said, my thing is this: both sides has got to come to the table with this cutting. Social Security, Medicare, social issues, bet. Maybe defense spending can be trimmed, and so forth. Yep. So we'll see here, and so like I said though, but when they meet on Wednesday, they gonna, like I said, they want to talk about a wide range of what the issues, and we'll see how that goes with Biden and so forth. Because I know another thing that the House Republicans want to cut is the IRS. They was given money to do more enforcement, and so they want to peel that money back. Now, we can say enforcement is good. You can say, hey, I'm doing everything by the letter of the law with my taxes, but they want to have the IRS open everybody's books, see what shakes out, and so forth. But like I said, though, I think if this is taken in the right way, this is a healthy debate. Like I said, they do need to be cuts made and so forth. And like I said, the debt, increase the limit, make cuts. And then so we get to the point where they don't have to raise the debt limit. Like I said, the government makes, $5 trillion a year, and they spend more than that all the time. So hopefully we can get that under control. All right. Our next story is midst of layoffs, y'all. There's been a lot of tech layoffs out there, and it, you know what I'm saying, has people looking certain things a certain way. Yeah. So, you know, you got these big companies, you know what I'm saying, the Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Twitter, and all those companies right there, the big companies, you know, big tech companies. I know y'all seen certain shows, maybe certain documentaries and so forth of how tech operates. That, you know what I'm saying, it's the fun house, free lunch, games in the game room, all these amenities to make the tech guy happy. Yeah. And so now that, you know, laying off, pulling those amenities away from you. This is a story from the India Times. Yep. Lesson from layoffs. Don't fall in love with the office, and save like crazy when you can. Yeah. And so what they mean is that it's like, all the amenities, it's like, they'll take the LinkedIn version of everything. I'm so happy to be at such and such tech company. They got all these cool things. They give me all this swag bag when I start. You know what I'm saying? I got, whatever computer I want, Mac, Apple, whatever. And I'm just in there. I go to the cafeteria, I order whatever I want, whatever food thing that's in there I can order. I'm going to play, I'm going to get on the games, you know what I'm saying? Pool, you know what I'm saying? Ping pong, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whatever's out there. And you get stuck up in that. And then the salary and the stock options and all that stuff kind of throw you around. And next thing you know, you're thinking, this is my forever job, and you don't save and don't put away like you should. And next thing you know, you can run into times like this where layoffs are upon you. You fell in love with this job, and now you're emotionally distraught because of the details. So pretty much what the conveying here is that don't wrap yourself up in the amenities. I mean, the amenities are cool. Don't get me wrong. The amenities are cool. Me with a person with a tech background, I see the amenities. But don't wrap yourself up in it. You know what I'm saying? Go get your money, partake a little bit, but stack to the ceiling always. Yep. So our next story in a stack of stuff is the DOJ is actively working to provide information on Trump-Biden documents to the Senate. See, what we have here is this, y'all. Let me hit you with the headline. The Department of Justice is working on briefing lawmakers on potential risks of national security after the discovery of classified documents at the home of former President Donald Trump and President Biden. The department has issued a statement to the Senate. See, what's going on is this. The $1 million question out of all this stuff is, what's the documents? And so what they're trying to do now is, what the Senate wants to know is, what did they find? Oh, so in that what did we find story, because like I said, you didn't know if it's an issue or not. Like I said, if it's just you gathered up some paperwork, you know what I'm saying, you cleared your desk out when you left, and or the papers that you were using and so forth, and you just left with them, that's something else. Like I said, if the President of the United States, let's think about it like this. The President of the United States writes some stuff on the paper. Unless it's the I love you note to his wife, but write something profound on the paper, that could be a classified document. Right, because like I said, it's coming from the President of the United States. So is it something along some of his own thought? Or is it something that shares, as they say, sources and methods? Yep. So like I said, the intelligence committee is trying to determine what's happening here. But there's a bit of a snag in you know what I'm saying, the briefing. Because the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, is kind of almost insulated these these situations with special prosecutors. So now that in turns things differently. But like this, check this out though. Super random. Before I go to the sound bites, I'm gonna let Ted Cruz and Mark Warner, you know, so they was on CBS News, and they talked about what they were looking for and so forth. But I want to say this before I go to that sound bite. You have, like I said, special counsel, and the documents are insulated. Now, you started to hear leaks about what documents were in Trump and Mar-a-Lago, but you haven't heard any leaks about what documents were in Delaware at Biden's house or the Penn Delaware Center think tank. Curious, right? All right, let's go to sound bites. Go.
Let's start on the news of the moment. I know the two of you were briefed by the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines. Do you have any timeline in terms of when you will get visibility into the documents, the classified material that both President Biden and President Trump had in their residences?
Well, unfortunately, no. And this committee has had a long bipartisan history of doing its job. And our job here is intelligence oversight. The Justice Department has had the Trump documents about 6 months, the Biden documents about 3 months. Our job is not to figure out if somebody mishandled those. And our job is to make sure there's not an intelligence compromise. And while the Director of National Intelligence has been willing to brief us earlier, now that you've got the special counsel, the notion that we're going to be left in limbo and we can't do our job, that just cannot stand. And every member of the committee who spoke yesterday, and I wanted the director to hear this, regardless of party, said, we are united and we have to find a way to do our job. That means we need these documents, we need access.
But the intelligence community would say their hands are tied because this is an ongoing, active Justice Department investigation. So what would meet the level of addressing your concerns without compromising that?
Well, I don't know how congressional oversight on the documents, actually know what they are, in any way impedes an investigation. These are probably materials we already have access to, we just don't know which ones they are. And it's not about being nosy. Here's the bottom line. If in fact those documents are very sensitive, materials are sensitive, and they pose a counterintelligence and national security threat to the United States, then the intelligence agencies are tasked with the job of coming up with ways to mitigate that. How can we judge whether their mitigation standards are appropriate if we don't have material to compare it against, and we can't even make an assessment on whether they properly risk assessed it? So we're not interested in the timeline, the TikTok, the who got what, who did that. Those are criminal justice matters to the extent that that's what it is. That's not what we're interested in. We deserve and have a right and a duty to review what the materials were so we can have a better understanding of not just, what the agency's doing about it, but whether it's sufficient.
Does the director even know what the materials were?
Well, we got a bit of vagueness on that because, again, I believe we want to make sure the intelligence professionals and not political appointees were making some of that. That makes sense to me. But I even think that President Trump and President Biden would probably want to have this known if they say there's no there there. Well, there may still be violations on handling, but we got to tell the American people and our colleagues, because we're the only ones who have access to this information, that there's not been an intelligence compromise. And again, this notion that when there's a special prosecutor appointed, they're not exactly the same circumstances. But remember, this committee spent years doing the investigation into Russian meddling during the 2016 election, and there.
Yep. So So like I said, they're trying to, like I said, they're trying to maneuver how to get the documents. It's like so, Merrick Garland, slick, not slick. I don't know, but yeah. But like I said, we're gonna see what the Justice Department does with this, and so like I said, that information needs to be given to Congress over what actually documents there are. Like I said, it could be some documents that don't matter, personal notes or whatever, or it could be something bigger, maybe something more connected to a story we're gonna have later in the show. But like I said, there was one more thing before we leave this here. The White House has confirmed earlier that months of documents marked classified dated back when President Biden was vice president, was discovered at his think tank in Washington back in November 2nd, before the midterm election. Side note: why are these documents coming out now? What happened? Who knew what? Who they thought knew what? Because they could have just said nothing, quiet. They said they rang the alarm. So it tells me that somebody was going to drop the dime. And that's why it started to come out. And it looks like when they dropped it down, they didn't think there was that many documents out there. And I understand that from reports of that'd be going later on in our last story that there was a lot of documents. All right, cool. Keeping on with the show. Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett was arrested for public intoxication charges in Dallas, police say. If you don't know who Bennett is, he was the quarterback. He was the former quarterback of the Georgia Bulldogs national championship this year. Yes. Yep. So here's the story. So Georgia quarterback who led the Bulldogs to the national championship was arrested and charged with in public intoxication early Sunday morning in Dallas. You live in Georgia. What are you doing in Dallas? So Bennett was in Dallas training for the combine when he was trying to meet a friend at an apartment, but got lost. And he couldn't find a friend. He was trying to dial the friend up. The friend didn't answer. And so, but there's more to it than just that. Let's see. What he was doing is, so he was knocking on a bunch of doors at night. And he was knocking on a bunch of doors trying to find his friend. But he was drunk at the time. And so police was called that a suspicious guy is out here wandering around the neighborhood, knocking on doors. Police came up to him, talked to him, tried to figure out what was going on. He was like, I'm trying to find my friend. And they tried to call the friend. And then next thing you know, the police realized that they smelled alcohol on him. So I guess he had a good night and so forth. And now he was arrested for intoxication. And he was expected to be a 4th round pick, which hopefully this doesn't hurt his draft stock that much, but you know how it goes. So it probably will. So I'm pretty sure he'll fall out of the 4th round. Unless his combine is like the best, but he'll probably fall out of the 4th round. Out of the 4th round to probably later rounds if he's drafted at all. But like I said, there was no mitigating factors to the arrest. Just the fact that he was drunk, so he might be okay. So we'll see. Like I said, watch the draft combine, watch the NFL draft, and see what happens if Stetson Bennett is your favorite guy and you're a Georgia fan. All right. Hunter Biden's email to Burisma business partner inferred direct access to classified documents. Yes. Hunter Biden, let's say, here it goes. So Hunter Biden, they got a couple emails that Hunter Biden written to his business partners in Burisma, and they sounded very knowledgeable of the area, but under Hunter Biden's own admission, he was not an expert in either the area or the business that he was sitting on the board of. But the emails he sent were very detailed gatherings of what was happening on the conditions. And so what they were looking at is that these are documents that the State Department would have issued State Department people traveling to the area to give them briefings. So we have a soundbite of Fox News Maria Bartiromo talking to who you talking to, Maria? Talking to Ted Cruz about this issue. Go.
And we begin this Sunday morning with breaking news on President Biden's handling of the United States' most sensitive information. We now have new information on the bulk of documents that Joe Biden donated to his alma mater, the University of Delaware. According to lawyers representing the parties who are trying to get to these documents, there are 1,850 boxes and 415 gigabytes of electronic records consisting of the so-called Biden records. The documents are said to fill up 2 tractor-trailer trucks. What we do not know is who sent the money to the university to archive and maintain these records, as the university will not release the accompanying so-called gift agreement. Meanwhile, this upcoming Tuesday, the General Counsel for the National Archives and Records Administration will sit for an on-the-record interview with the House Oversight Committee over classified documents found at multiple unsecured locations, including Biden's Delaware home and his office at the Penn Biden Center. This comes as, according to Senator Ron Johnson, an email from Hunter Biden in 2014 about Ukraine to one of his business partners looked suspiciously like it was taken directly from classified information that the State Department gives members of the Senate when they travel overseas. This email from Hunter Biden to Devin Archer. Joining me right now to discuss all of this is Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz. He's a member of both the Judiciary and Foreign Relations Committees and is calling for a hearing on all of this. Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Good morning, Maria. Good to be with you.
Well, first, let's talk about this email from Hunter Biden to Devin Archer. It's quite specific, and we don't know where Hunter Biden got this information. But as you know, your colleague Ron Johnson is raising his hand about it. The email reads, some sort of decentralization will likely occur in the East. If it doesn't, the Russians will continue to escalate their destabilization campaign, which could lead to a full-scale takeover of the eastern region, most critically Donetsk. The strategic value is to create a land bridge for Russia to Crimea. Your thoughts on this email and your calls to get a hearing on what specifically is in these documents that have been identified at unsecured locations?
Well, the one thing we know for sure is Hunter Biden didn't write that. Hunter Biden is not an expert on Ukraine. He's not an expert on Eastern Europe. He's not an expert on Russia. But that email did help get him on the board of Burisma. It did help get him paid $83,000 a month, because it showed a level of expertise, not coming from him, but he was getting it from somewhere. That's clearly from some sort of briefing. We don't know whether it was a classified briefing or not, but that is the sort of analysis that is often within a classified briefing. And this email is unusual in the Hunter Biden emails. There's a level of scholarship and erudition that if it magically appeared, somehow it doesn't appear in the other emails he's sending. The obvious question is, what was he cutting and pasting from? What was his source? And it raises the natural inference that Hunter Biden had direct access to these classified documents. We do know that Joe Biden, it seems everywhere they search for classified documents for Joe Biden, they find it, whether it is...
Well, so like I said, when you, through the soundbite, you see that Maria is pointing out how much documents that were given to the that were given out box-wise, 1,800 boxes of material, 415 gigs of data to the University of Delaware about certain subject matters. And you could say that coincidence, right? Maybe, you know what I'm saying, Hunter was able to Google some of this information and get it, or when he was calling his residence at his daddy's house and where the documents were stored, he was able to look in there, thumb through papers, and make it seem like it seemed that he had an inside track, because maybe he did, allegedly, and so forth. But at the end of the day, like I said, this story, the light's gonna come out, and I do believe that the answers to what's happening in this story is gonna come through what Hunter Biden know and didn't know. And with that said, this has been the Working Man Committee podcast. I'm your host, Brandon T. Like, follow, subscribe, support the channel, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Peace.